Yeah. Well, yeah.
So, are we keeping everybody in the hallway?
What do you want to do?
How many people do we have?
A lot. Yeah, we actually live out in Vincent.
Okay.
What we call this, what about the sublease cases?
That was this last year. Yeah.
Except for the other last
You
one.
picked them. Yeah, I was gonna say, that's what I thought.
He just doesn't quit. But it's really kind of nice when that's your neighbor. No, we do pasture. We do hay, and then we do some crops. There's the long ones again. There are a couple that I had to show. That we have chickens and turkeys and dairy cows and goats.
Yeah, they went down, Vicky and Caroline. I kept hearing them. Pop, pop, pop.
Can I pull this down one time? We don't require
Are you
public to
on
wear
that
that. County commissioners weren't wearing them.
I don't have notifications. I'd have to look at it.
I'm more concerned about volume. But
Can everybody still hear me out
I
in
think
the
it
hallway?
was.
oh, they didn't hook up I sent them an email about it yesterday.
Okay. These are the people associated with the subdivision case or the first?
Yes, I asked everybody for the subdivision case with the exception of case 81, which we will hear with the zoning case.
Okay.
All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to the October 14th public hearing of the Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission is charged with regulating the subdivision of property in the unincorporated areas of Jefferson County. You will be given the decision of the Commission today regarding subdivision request, and the plat representative will receive the decision in writing within 10 business days. Please note that any subdivision approved today is not complete. In order to complete the subdivision of your property, a final plat must be recorded in the Office of the Judge of Probate. County staff will be coordinating with the surveyors of today's approved preliminary plats to prepare the approved plats for recording. The Planning Commission is also charged with evaluating requests for rezoning of property and advising the County Commission for their final determination. All decisions made by the Planning Commission regarding zoning cases are advisory only, and the final determination of a zoning will be made by the Jefferson County Commission in a subsequent hearing for which all property owners within 500 feet will be notified. Would everybody please silence your electronic devices? And if we could, clerk, we'll call the roll.
Heather Carter,
Here.
Brian Deborah,
Here.
Dr. Bridget Dickerson,
Here.
Mark Evans,
Here.
Ken Lowry,
Here.
Jay Miller,
Here.
Georgia McCoy O'Neill, Marco Stigler,
Here.
Trudy Strang.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. May I please have a motion regarding the minutes from the September 9th meeting?
Mr. Chairman, will you entertain a motion for both sets of minutes?
Sure.
Okay, so I make a motion to suspend the reading and approve as written meeting minutes from the September 9th P&Z meeting and the special called P&Z meeting on September 23rd.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. All right. We'll now move to our subdivision cases. The staff will present the case to the board, and we will then call for opposition. The applicant and or their representative may be asked to come forward to the podium and answer any questions. Our first subdivision case is S21-72. Mr. Martin, if you would please present the case.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a proposed subdivision to split one acreage tract into 3 lots of record.
for family use. As of right now, the use has not been disclosed to us. It is zoned A1 agriculture. The staff has completed a review of this. There's no right-of-way dedication required, no floodplain. Environmental Services does not have, actually, Services does have access here, so they'll have to sign the final plat, and it does comply with all our zoning regulations. There may be some additional right-of-way and road widening improvements should the development on this property be presented. Other than that, the staff recommendation for this subdivision is approval.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. We'll now open the public hearing and ask for anyone in opposition to please come forward. Seeing none, is the applicant here? Are there any questions from the commission for staff? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve S21-0072 as presented. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. All right. Next case is S21-74. Mr. Martin, if you would please present the case.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a proposed subdivision, or a re-subdivision, to create two lots of record from a previously platted common area in a residential development. This is the Crest subdivision. It was approved for rezoning in 2020, and then also the first plat was recorded this year, July 19th. And so all these lots that you see here in the Phase 1 were platted with the exception of this lot and this lot. And those are what is being proposed today and being cut out of the common area. Earlier today, it was approved by the PUD committee, and so it does comply with all our zoning regulations. Staff recommendation for this subdivision or resurvey is approval.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Martin. We'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? Seeing none, is the applicant here? All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the commission for the applicant or for staff? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve S21-0074 as presented. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Next case is S21-76. Mr. Martin, if you would please present it for us.
Yes, this is a proposed subdivision for 1 acre tract to be divided into 3 lots of record for residential use. This is A1 agriculture zoning. This was recently, this in 2019, was rezoned by the county commission for institutional 1 for a private school. However, construction plans were never permitted, and then contingencies were never satisfied, so the rezoning was never actually completed. Then last year, 2020, the county commission approved a request to remove a restrictive covenant on this property that was not allowing any mobile homes. It was approved with a covenant that the no mobile home shall be placed west of the existing access easement on the property. This easement right here is the one that's referring to. It's a 50-foot easement that accesses Redmond Hall Road for these 3 proposed lots. As such, it's now being proposed for this 3-lot development. Staff has completed a review. No major issues. The road improvements will be required for the easement to the first driveway in this subdivision. It's pretty minimal. It will be a 16-foot wide gravel surface with 2-foot wide grass shoulders and side ditches. And some of that actually may already be existing there, but this is the minimum requirement by Roads and Transportation. Other than that, the staff recommendation is approval with an exception to the subdivision regulations to allow all 3 lots to be recorded without road frontage.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Martin. We'll now open the public hearing and call for anyone here in opposition to please come forward. Seeing none, is the applicant here? All right. Thank you all. All right. Are there any questions from the commission for the applicant or for staff? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve S21-0076 with the exception to the subdivision regulation to allow all 3 lots to be recorded without road frontage. Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. And y'all are free to go if you like. Don't feel like you need to stick around. Mr. Hager may have something else on the agenda. But, all right. Our next subdivision case is S21-77. Mr. Martin, if you would please present the case.
This is a proposed subdivision to split one acreage tract into 3 lots of record for residential use. This was recently the subject of a rezoning case in 2020, in which the County Commission did approve this rezoned to be rezoned from from I3 industrial to A1 agriculture. Staff has completed the review of this. It does comply with our zoning regulations. Again, Roads and Transportation has required that at minimum the road would be needed built up to be 16 foot wide with gravel surface and 2 foot wide grass shoulders and side ditches. This is on the existing easement here on that property. And other than that, the staff recommendation is approval with an exception to the subdivision regulations to allow lots 1, 2, and 3 to be recorded with no road frontage.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. We'll now open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here in opposition. Seeing none, is the applicant here? All right, great. Any questions from the commission for the applicant or for staff? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve S21-0077 with the exception to the subdivision regulations to allow all 3 lots to be recorded without road frontage. Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, the ayes have it. Our next case is S21-78. Mr. Martin, if you would please present this case.
This is a proposed subdivision to split one acreage tract, approximately 27 acres, into 9 lots of record for residential use. Staff has completed a review of this, and it does comply with our zoning regulations. Traffic engineer has noted that in order to decrease the number of driveway entrances on Park Road to include ingress and egress easements for joint driveways, and actually the surveyor has already made those changes and added those easements in there, so that change has been made. Right-of-way dedication will be required on Old Rock Creek Road, Steve Crowder Road, and Park Road. And other than that, the staff recommendation is approval for the subdivision.
All right, thank you. We'll now open the public hearing and call for anyone here in opposition to please come forward. Seeing none, is the applicant here? All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the commission? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve S21-0078 as presented. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. All right, next case, S21-79. Mr. Martin.
This is a proposed subdivision split one acreage tract into 2 lots of record for residential use. There's a currently existing home, stick-built home, and a modular home, which is permitted here in this A1 district. And they want to split that for reasons of a family split, more or less, to split the 2 structures. An easement must be required for Lot 2, and that change has actually already been made by the surveyor now, so that easement has been put in. There's no right-of-way dedication required, and it does comply with all our zoning regulations. So the staff recommendation is approval with an exception to the subdivision regulations to allow Lot 1 to be recorded with no road frontage.
All right, thank you, Mr. Martin. We'll now open the public hearing and call for anyone here in opposition. All right, seeing none, looks like Mr. Hager's here. If there's any questions from the commission, are there any discussion? All right, we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve S21-0079 with the exception to the subdivision regulation to allow Lot 1 to be recorded without road frontage. Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. All right. Next case is S21-80. Mr. Martin, if you would please present the case.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a proposed subdivision to combine a portion of a lot and 3 lots into 1 lot of record for residential use. This is one of the areas that was hit by the tornadoes from 2011. So there's no home there currently on it, and now they're rebuilding. They need to join all these lots together in one lot. So staff has completed the review of this, and it does comply with all regulations. Right-of-way dedication will be required for Easy Street, 25 foot from center line. Other than this, the staff recommendation for this proposed subdivision is approval.
All right. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? The applicant here? All right. Are there any questions from the commission? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve S21-0080 as presented. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. All right, case number 81 will be heard with the concurrent rezoning case. So we'll now move to our rezoning cases. Mr. Morrison, if you would please bring everybody in for those. A little bit. Yeah. Y'all come on in and have a seat. Thank y'all for your patience. We just went through the subdivision cases, so we're now moving to the zoning cases. I want to go back and read some of the ground rules for y'all in case you're on the hall and didn't hear them, so you understand our process on rezoning cases. So the Planning Commission is charged with regulating, with evaluating requests for rezoning of property and advising the County Commission for their final determination. All decisions made by the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding zoning cases are advisory only, and the final determination of the zoning case will be made by the Jefferson County Commission in a subsequent public hearing for which all property owners within 500 feet will be notified. I'd ask if everybody would please also silence any electronic devices that they have so that the meeting's not disturbed. So for our zoning cases, first our staff will present a short summary of the case, and then we will call for the applicant to come forward if they wish to add to the summary that staff has presented. And then we will call for opposition to come forward and ask any questions that they may have. Please direct any questions that you have to the commission. We will be writing down notes of the discussions, and we will ask follow-up questions to the applicant. And bear in mind that each side has 15 minutes to present their opposition or their information in support of the case. So please be mindful of those time constraints. If someone comes up and mentions that they're concerned about surface water runoff or traffic or something along those lines, don't feel like you need to come back up and repeat that. That'll help save time and reserve time for other people who have different things to say. And believe me, if you come up and say that there's an issue with traffic, we're going to take notes on that and follow up with the applicant and ask questions about it. So don't feel like you need to repeat those things. All right, we'll now move on and we'll get started with our rezoning cases. Our first case is Z21-22, Caleb Bishop's request for a change of zoning from A1 to I3 of 7.93 acres in the Morris area. Mr. Brown, if you would please present the case.
Yes, sir. As you've already mentioned, this is case Z21-22 for a map amendment from I3 industrial to A1 agricultural for residential use. This property is in the Morris area. contains 7.93 acres at the location 2112 Morris Majestic Road. Staff is recommending approval, and there was no opposition from surrounding neighbors.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. Is the applicant here? All right, is there anyone here in opposition to this case? All right, seeing none, then we'll close the public hearing, and I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of zoning case Z210022.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. All right, next case is Z21-23. Robin Glenn's request for change of zoning from R1, C3, and I1 to C3 for an event center. This is 9.17 acres in the Pinson area. Mr. Brown, if you would, please present the case.
Okay. Excuse me, I was just looking for the zoning map.
Take your time.
So, as a reiteration, this is case Z21-23 for a proposed map amendment from R1, C3, and I1, or residential, commercial, and light industrial to the C3 zone district, which is to remove split zoning for an event center. As you're looking at the zoning map, you can see that there are 3 zoning classifications, and the applicant's proposing to rezone this property from 3 zoning classifications to 1. And that zoning classification would be the C3 commercial zone district. This property is in the Pinson area. It contains 9.17 acres at the address 7385 Highway 79. Staff is recommending approval, and there was no opposition from surrounding neighbors.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll now open the public hearing and ask for the applicant to come forward if they wish and to supplement staff's proposal or staff's report if they like. And y'all are more than welcome too, just to hold off on coming and adding to this report, and let's see if there's anybody here in opposition, okay? We'll now call for anybody in opposition to come forward, please, and if you wish. All right. Seeing none, are there any questions from the commission of the applicant or for staff? All right. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of zoning case Z210023. Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Y'all are more than welcome to leave too. Don't feel like you need to stick around.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Good luck. All right. Our next zoning case is Z21-24. Mr. Brown, if you would, please present the case.
Yes, sir. Case Z21-24, the application of Mr. Antonio Alcantara Saucedo. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. This is a map amendment from C1 to R6, or commercial to residential, to bring an existing single-family dwelling in compliance with the proposed zoning district. This is in the minor area. The property contains 0.34 acres at the location 1070 McDonald Chapel Road. Staff is recommending approval, and there was no opposition from surrounding property owners.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll now open the public hearing and call for the applicant to come forward if they wish. All right. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? All right. Seeing none, are there any questions from the commission? All right, then we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of zoning case Z210024. Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. All right. Our next case is Z21-33. Mr. Brown, if you would please present this case.
Yes, sir. This is case Z-21-33. It's the application of Brittany Davis, proposed map amendment from A1 agricultural to C1 commercial for a clothing boutique. This property is in the McCalla area. It contains 0.81 acres. The location 4961 McAdory School Road. Staff is recommending approval, and there was no opposition from surrounding property owners.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll now open the public hearing. Is the applicant here? If you wish to come forward and add to the presentation, you can, or we'll wait and see if there's any opposition. That'd be fine, too. All right. Is there anyone here in opposition? All right. Seeing none. Is there any questions from the commission for staff or for the applicant? You do? All right. Yeah, Mr. Lowry's got a few questions. Ma'am, if you could come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record for us, please.
So my name is Brittany Davis. You need the address of the place?
Your address, just an address for you.
Where I currently am is directly next door at 4955 McAdory School Road, and the new address would be 4961 McAdory School Road. So I've been in business. You want me to kind of just tell you a little bit about it?
You can, or I think Mr. Lowry may just have some specific questions for you.
So I was going to ask you similar to that. So tell us a little bit about what you're going to do with the property. Looks like there's a house on it right now.
Okay, so the house has been moved. It was taken away. I had someone to remove the home or whatever. So I've been in business for 5 years. I have a women's clothing boutique. When the pandemic hit, I chose to take my business online and have a brick and mortar. So I have grown tremendously. I rent currently now 2,400 square feet from the strip center connected. And I've done really well, and I was leasing an additional 1,200 square feet that I grew out of, and they have leased to someone else. So I've just grown so much that I was lucky enough that there was a piece of property directly next door. I got in contact with them, purchased it, done everything necessary up to this point, and so now I'm looking to build my own store. I hope to make it a little bit bigger, and then I'll have a warehouse connected to the back of it.
That's where I was headed with my questioning. So could you tell us a little bit more about the type of building you're going to put up?
Yes,
How many levels is it?
I put some pictures. I don't know if they're in here. When I submitted the application, I did not want to. I know you have. It's a little. Yeah. I know it's a little expensive to get a plot plan and go through the architect. So I wanted to make sure I got all this done first. But I did provide a picture of.
That's the structure that's demolished. That's the structure that's demolished. Okay.
Yes, sir. So the strip center is actually, mine is directly next door to it. Do you see? I provided a picture. I might could pull it up on my phone. There's no letter.
We don't have it.
Okay.
I didn't see it in our package. Do you have it?
We don't have it. I'm sorry.
Okay, I can look on I can actually have it on my phone if you want me to show it to you. Basically, it's going to be a normal brick strip center, and the warehouse would go behind it, so it's actually connected. You wouldn't see it. The way the property runs, I hope to build more of a L shape. So it would be 2 units here, and then a big unit here, and then it would go behind it. But everything I hope to do brick. I want to do all white, make it look really clean and whatnot.
So typically what we do when we don't have an architectural rendering in the package is we ask it to be brought back for us to review it to make sure it fits the character of the neighborhood.
Is there any way I can pull up my application of the pictures that I put on my application portal?
See what Mike can work his magic.
We may can.
Yeah.
What's your case number? 33.
I hope Michael's got his files in order.
I love y'all too. Yeah, you did a pretty good job. Probably so.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Dr. Dixon.
I have a question while we're waiting for Ms. Davis.
Okay, go
Ms.
ahead.
Davis, what's that building next to your planned site?
So there is a home next door to my planned site that they run an attorney's office out of, and then directly next door is the current strip center.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. The picture that shows with the house, I think it's an older picture.
Type in.
A lot has changed
pop-up.
since then.
Okay. Site settings. You might have to add the Acela domain to this. Kathy had to do this to mine. Go to it. Okay, allow it.
So Mike, if it's easier, can she just email it to you from her phone?
Sites can send pop-ups and use redirects.
Yeah, on the bottom.
Yeah. And then you have to go back here.
Yeah, I just need to type that in, don't I?
Yes. That's not a valid web address. HTTP.
Just one.
You missed it. It's a semicolon in there.
Is it backslash then, semicolon?
It's 2 backslashes.
Go back. av.jccal.org. That's what you said.
Go back to the Acela thing and see if you can download it.
I do have the picture on my phone. I don't mind emailing it if I need to do that. The pictures that I provided, so one was of a strip center up the road that has, it's a real nice strip center that has the warehouse behind it, just so you can see how it looks clean and nice. It's not just like a warehouse structure. And then the other was a strip center that I took a picture of that I really liked, the outside design of it.
So from what I'm hearing you describe, it sounds like it's gonna be comparable to the other
Okay.
strip centers in the area, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If he can provide us a picture that's been submitted with the application and we can tie it to that would be fine.
I can't see it.
While they're looking, Mr.
Yeah.
Brown, I had a question
I'll
for
tell you what,
you.
is there a way we can email it to them?
Yeah.
Morrison M@jccal.org.
Michael, while we're doing that, I have a question for staff. So she mentioned that she's gonna have a warehouse out of the back. Does that still fit in the C1 zoning classification?
Yes, that'll be fine. Because, I mean, it's accessory to the primary retail,
I understand.
so.
Yeah, and I would like to, Michael, I know you're working to move through this, but I'm hopeful that a women's clothing boutique is not a very controversial architectural review. We've got other cases on the agenda that we definitely need to get to.
I'll try it. So,
That's what I was contemplating moving this to the end of the agenda, but now we're really seeing the backside. We get to see your inbox.
I
All up in my business. Morrison M. Morrison M. Last name, first initial. At jccal.org.
Ms. Davis, did you get it sent? So while Mike's waiting on that, I had a couple of follow-up questions. So you talk about it as a strip mall. Is it just going to be your business, or are you going to have other units?
I would like to have one other unit, like I want to do it kind of like a little L. So there's a hair salon that's directly beside me now, bring each other business or whatever. So that's something that I hope to do going down the road, kind of have it attached so we could have, the business or whatever. But most probably just us two, the warehouse behind it.
Okay. And that's going to be represented in the picture that we're going to see?
Yeah, so the two pictures that are attached is going to show you the strip center up the road that has the warehouse attached. You can kind of see what it looks like from the side view. You can't see it from the front of the road. And then I want it to be white. I want it to be clear. I mean, I can find something that I like. I felt like the warehouse was probably the most important for you to kind of tell how that looks.
So you mentioned you'd rather handle this here if we get the picture up, but what kind of time constraints are you under? Are you looking to start construction quickly, or?
I hope to have to start that first week.
Okay.
That's good. Okay, thanks.
Mike, let us know if you think we should push this to the end of the agenda.
It said it's sent.
Okay, yeah. No, Ms. Davis, I appreciate your patience too. Normally we, our staff report, we have a large report that we get. A lot of times we've got pictures like that in there, but it may not have made it this time, but. So what will the front of the building look like? Would it have brick veneer on it? Okay, and
So I basically just want to do brick veneer on the front and the side, and I want it to be white. Everyone will have, like me and the hair salon will have a nice. I can actually send, if this one goes through, I can send a picture of what my current strip center looks like. I do everything very professionally, like the building that I'm in now looks very nice. Keep everything, up.
okay.
It's just a single-story building.
No, so the building I'm in now is probably a 5-unit strip center, or really more than that. There's 5 businesses.
Like stories, levels, one level.
One level,
Okay.
yes.
I would like to move this item, and so I would entertain a motion if anybody will.
I will, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we pause this item and move it to the end of the agenda today so we can cover the rest of our business while they figure out this, and then we'll come back to it at the end.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, we'll move this item to the end of the agenda, and we'll come back to it. Ms. Davis, thank you for your patience. All right, our next case is Z21-34. Mr. Brown, if you would, please present the case.
You take me back to the staff report.
Oh, you got it, okay.
Okay. Excuse me. This is the application of Tina Ramsey. It's KZ 21-34. So, request to amend restrictive covenants to allow a liquor store. This property's in the Azure neighborhood. Currently consists of 5.52 acres. The address 5025 and 5045 Upton Lane. Staff does not have a recommendation. I will say that there are existing uses there already, a C-store with gas pumps, and so this would allow, should you approve it today, the addition of a liquor store. There was no opposition, as I recall, from surrounding property owners.
All right.
That's all I have. Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll now open the public hearing and ask for the applicant to come forward. Mr. Brown, you know the drill. State your name and address for us, please.
Mike Brown, 1819 Fifth Avenue South, Fifth Avenue North, Birmingham 35203. I'm here on behalf of the applicant and the owner of the property, ANPR USA Inc. This property was rezoned by this commission back in 2019 from A1 to C1 to allow for the gas station and convenience store that were put in place. That was made subject to certain restrictive covenants that were put on the property. Those restrictive covenants are on the board in front of you all and state the property shall be used as a gas station, convenience store, and restaurant only. Under the state's liquor law licenses, a convenience store can sell beer and wine, and this owner is in fact licensed to and has been selling beer and wine at that convenience store since it opened in 2019 or 2020. It opened in 2020. This is only the only reason we're before you today is to amend the restrictive covenant to add some provision because convenience store would not cover under the liquor licenses of the state liquor licenses. Convenience stores only cover beer and wine. So we have to get that removed or add to it a sentence that says including sales of liquor. The owner of the property has already been through the process and has been permitted by the state Alcohol Beverage Control Board for a liquor permit. That permit was issued in August of 2021, but we can't go through the county permitting process. That was when it was discovered that this covenant was in place and we could not sell liquor without changing that language.
Great. All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? All right, seeing none, is there any discussion from the commission?
Mr. Brown, would you mind coming up? I had a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly, Mr. Lover, go ahead.
Thank you. So, Mr. Brown, I remember hearing this case when we first approved the rezoning, and we went back and went through the case files on it, and we're trying to understand the evolution of the covenants that were there. They were in the original application, and I was wondering if you could elaborate on why the change in planned use to not include a liquor store or liquor sales, and
well, it's very interesting. So I did the same thing you did. So my former partner, Charlie Beavers, who's now works, he works separately in another firm of his own. He handled this, and I asked him. He could not remember. I went back through our file to determine why there was why the restriction was only for a convenience store. The owner told me that at the time when they did it, they only were thinking that that was all they were going to need, and so the change is due to demand. Really, there's nothing in the process when it was originally done that was some restriction to only do it that way. It was just done that way because that's all they were going to do: gas station, convenience store, and now there's the demand has built up to cause him to seek this additional sales.
Okay. So thank you, I appreciate that. And the seventh covenant on the list here is hours of operation. I just wanted to confirm that the store is still operating from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Correct. We're not seeking any other changes.
Okay. All All right.
We did have a discussion at one point with staff about, there's also a change there's a covenant on reflective lighting, but we decided we were not going to change that at all either, because that would just cause this is a much easier change and much simpler change, and it's really the only change we need.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I'm just concerned because we went back and looked, and we did have opposition from the residential
At that time.
areas next door about the station being there. So, but obviously they're not here today, but we still want to look out for them.
Correct, and I did go back and look at that, and so at that point in time, the opposition was, that property was zoned agricultural, A1, and the surrounding properties were concerned about having any non-residential or agricultural use, and so there were all these restrictions were put in place primarily to say, okay, we're going to allow for commercial use, but we're going to have the buffering, we're going to have the reflective lighting, all those things that had been raised by the neighbors, and we're not seeking to change any of that.
All right, very good.
Mr. Brown, have you been to Wayne's Package Store?
Is this that?
Have you ever been to Wayne's?
I have.
You in Warrior?
Yes.
Is this going to be like Wayne's, or is this more going to be like?
I would say it would be a little nicer than Wayne's.
Well,
no disparagement to Wayne's, having been there
of course
myself.
not.
But
they do a fair amount of business.
That's
I
right.
just was
It would be
curious
very
as to what
similar.
scale.
Very
Okay.
similar.
Okay.
I would say the scale would not be as high. I would not think
Okay.
that's on a county. That's right on the border of what formerly was a border of a dry county and a wet county.
Right. That's right. Yeah. All right. Well, good deal. Are there any other questions?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Any other questions from the commission? All right. All right. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of zoning case Z 210034.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. All right. Thank you all. All right, our next case is Z 21-35. Mr. Brown, if you would please present the case. Thank you.
Okay, this is case Z-21-35. It's the application of Mr. Gilbert Douglas III. It's a proposed map amendment, from A1 to R4, from agricultural to multifamily. This is in the Hoover area. Property contains 1.9 acres. The address 1858 Patton Chapel Road. Staff is recommending approval, and there was no opposition from surrounding property owners.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll now open the public hearing and ask if the applicant wishes to come on forward and add to the presentation. All right. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? Okay. Is there any questions from the commission or discussion?
Some.
Yes, Mr. Lauer.
I'd like to ask some questions of the applicant.
Okay. Sure. If the applicant would please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Rob Walker at 2229 First Avenue South, Suite 110, Birmingham, Alabama 35233. I'm architect representing the landowner, Gilbert Douglas.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Walker. So I know the area pretty well. I've seen numerous cases come through the commission on the property in question. So, and I do business in the area, so I know it. So what my questions are around basically the elevation views. It looks like you're going to have a 3-story property.
Correct.
Okay, and outside of the commercial that's on Highway 31, this will be the tallest structure in that area right there. Like Vulcan Tire, which is about 2 parcels away, is on one level. The strip mall going down there, Old Columbiana Road, is also that height. So, And I can't tell from the rendering if it's really 3 stories or 4 stories. Could you talk to us a little bit about the elevation drawing? Maybe Mr. Brown could pull it up on the screen for us.
Sure, let me, I had a couple different versions of the elevation. This is a 3-story version, so if you're looking at something that looks like 4 stories, it may be the wrong attachment.
Yeah, that's the one we have right there.
Yeah, that's the wrong one. So
Okay.
This is it.
Yeah, that'd be great if you want.
There's 4 or 5 copies on that.
Oh, thank you.
So what's the overall height of the structure from ground level? Or
The-
what
the-
will be graded?
The overall height is going to be between, before the spring line of the roof, you're looking at 40 feet, plus or minus. We're looking at 11 to 12 feet floor to floor, depending on what we decide to do. So, the spring line of the roof, it may be a 45-foot height. Depending on where the grade lines up. So you'll have 12 to 11 feet per floor, 33, 36 feet, plus some roof line.
Okay, good answers, thank you. It's just the height is a little bit different for the area, but yeah, I think the main commercial, like I said, on 31 is 2 stories. So, but it's also a little bit, the grade's higher up where you are.
Yeah, it kind of sits up on a little, above the road a little bit.
Mr. Walker, do you know did y'all meet with the neighborhood and talk with them at all before submitting? I mean, there's no opposition here, and okay, all right. Well, there may be some opposition, and I wasn't sure. This is I grew up driving down Patton Chapel, and there's been a lot of change there. This is a new, modern, very well designed building, but it is a little different than what's been there. So I guess we'll wait to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's
from
a
the opposition.
transitional space, and that's what we're intending to do is, provide that between what's going on with the commercial that's near it and the single-family homes and whatnot.
Sure. Well,
That's all I have for Mr. Walker. Thank you.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Lauer. Any other questions from the commission for the applicant? All right. Seeing none, we'll ask for any opposition to come forward, please. Ma'am, if you would, remember to state your name and address so we'll have it for the record.
My name is Jane Bush. I live at 1910 Charlotte Drive in Hoover, and we live downhill from this area. I'm very concerned about the flooding from the runoff. There has been some regrading of a property on Patton Chapel across the street from here that has flooded homes behind that. And I'm concerned about more and more of that running off. We're also concerned about the traffic on Patton Chapel, especially at transportation times for school. A lot of people are in and out, and traffic on that road is already real busy. We're very concerned about that as well. The sign letting us know about this meeting today was very small. Anybody that I talked to in the neighborhood did not know about it. There's a lot of construction going on Patton Chapel, and we just weren't aware of it until the last minute.
See. I think I can speak a little bit to the signage and stuff. The sign is the posting that our zoning ordinance requires, and then there's also specific notice to given to landowners within, I think, a 500-foot radius of the property. And so, if you're not within 500 feet, you wouldn't have gotten a specific mailer. And so that's in compliance with, our Alabama law, and it may not be sufficient in your mind, but that's kind of the process that we've been using. So, but I hear you. Ms. Bush, are there any other concerns other than flooding and traffic that you want to address?
I'm concerned about, if all of these people are going to have children, and they probably will, that, they're going to have to be bused to Jefferson County schools, which is more bus traffic in addition to the Hoover bus traffic.
Yeah. That's a good, we'll ask about impact on schools. I don't know, but I imagine that they'll say that there won't be that large of an impact on the school system. They're probably catering to an older crowd. This is probably more downsizing, but I'll ask that question.
In the past, part of that property was zoned for 55 plus and garden homes.
Okay.
So that's why I was just surprised at this.
Sure. I understand. Thank you, Ms. Bush.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to ask her a question.
Sure. If you would, Ms. Bush, I think the commission had a couple of questions that we want to follow up. Dr. Dickerson, if you go right ahead.
Can you speak more to the flooding, the runoff?
Yeah, there was a house right across the street from this property. They built a wall and then leveled the backyard, and the house right behind it has flooded ever since. Anytime it rains, not just the rain that we had last week, but, and it's really bad.
All right. Ms. Bush, also, I know you stated your address, but I was trying to correlate it to the area. What was your street?
1910 Charlotte Drive.
Okay, is that on the opposite side of the road from this property?
It is.
Is it off Frank Avenue?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone else here in opposition to this case? All right. There were some questions by the applicant to us about flooding, traffic in schools. Questions from the opposition about flooding, traffic in schools. I guess I have a question. If staff could please address any traffic reviews that have been made of this project and any recommendations or additional provisions that may be required. Yeah. Well, yeah, and then I'm taking another staff member can address flooding issues. But I think, Heather, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I guess not a staff member, a member of the commission. Can you,
Yeah, so the recommendation was to not allow any connection on Patton Chapel and to connect up on, I'm not sure what the name of that road is, but it's the access road, so single point of connection with one ingress and egress on Patton Chapel to reduce the points of conflict.
okay.
It looks 21 units in total.
Okay.
So not a significant traffic increase on that road.
Okay. Can staff speak to any flooding or erosion drainage measures that we have and that we impose on developers?
So the site development will require a drainage analysis, and previous post requirements will have to be met.
Correct. We do have stormwater regulations that have been adopted, and the post runoff cannot exceed what the existing runoff is right now.
Okay. And that's a term, I know it said fast, but the post runoff amount or rate, post runoff rate cannot exceed what it is today. So there should be no water leaving that site faster after development than there currently is now. All right. And that's something that's required of the developer. All right. And then as far as the school impact, I think that's probably a question best directed to the applicant. And I don't know if the architect can address that or who, but can you tell us just generally the type of buyers you expect to?
Certainly. These will be condominiums. They're not going to be for rent. And the target market will be more of a empty nester kind of situation with the price point as we're looking at, upwards past 200, I would guess. They're all 2-bedroom, 2-bath kind of deals. So our expectation, they would not be targeted to families.
Okay.
With children, excuse me.
Yeah.
The maximum number of bedrooms will just be 2 for each unit. And you're saying that pricing will determine who will be a tenant. You're not going to have a tenant restriction.
No, correct. We're not.
Well, there won't be
that's
tenants.
That's just kind of what we're thinking at the moment, yes.
It'll be a condominium complex. It won't be apartments. There won't be tenants necessarily.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how many bedrooms maximum?
Well, I mean, right now we've designed it for 2 bedrooms for each unit.
Okay. But you could have some that are changed and do 3 bedrooms and that sort of thing.
we could, but right now, that's what we have it designed for us to.
Have you designed the floor plans yet?
We have schematically laid them out, yes.
Okay. Mr. Lowry, go ahead.
Mr. Walker, so I was just doing some math. So you've got 12 and then 9 units, so you're at 21.
Correct.
Right. So you've got 42 parking spaces listed here.
Yes.
So if you have 2 bedrooms, assuming you have 2 cars per unit, you don't have very much parking left over for visitors and stuff.
But, yeah, well, a lot of people are buying 2-bedroom units and using one for an office. So
I understand. So
I mean, we were meeting the zoning requirement for 2 per unit, and that's what we're doing.
That's what I was going to ask staff next. We're meeting the minimum requirements for zoning, right? Okay, all right. So I didn't go out and visit this before the case. I mean, I've been out there recently, but it's still the character, the height of it still concerns me because most everything in that area is single story. So I think the tallest building is probably the Methodist church next door. And that's just because it has a high pitched roof. But anyway, I'm just.
And one concept that we have done is break it up in 2 different buildings to kind of bring the scale down instead of one larger building. And so I think that works well at transitioning into the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very attractive plan. I give it that. It's just building a 3-story building amongst 1-story buildings kind of sets it apart. So, and it's going to set it apart from the planned developments in that area too. So, but thank you for answering my questions, Mr. Walker. That's all I have.
Mr. Walker, if you could just speak to flooding issues, what y'all do to prevent that, and also traffic.
Well, we would provide the necessary detention that's required by, Jefferson County and design it based on those regulations and not have any more water running off the site than it is today.
Okay. All right. And then as far as traffic's concerned, have y'all had a traffic study or anything done?
Don't know if we have you done a traffic study? No, we've not done a traffic study yet.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions from the commission? All right. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and we'll call for a motion.
Can we have a little bit of discussion?
Sure.
So I'm continue to be uncomfortable with the height compared to the other places and the other structures in the area. Maybe staff could give us some thoughts on the character of the neighborhood and having something 3 stories versus 1 story.
I apologize. I don't have the zoning ordinance in front of me. I'm sure there are height limitations. I assume that the architect looked at those height limitations before proposing this building. Would that be true? Yes. Yeah, I mean, this is not necessarily a architectural design district, where you make decisions based on character and so forth. If he fits within the height restrictions for this zone district, I don't know that you could deny him his proposal for a 3-story building at this location. So those are just my thoughts.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think that, I haven't heard anybody that said that the design in and of itself is bad. I think that the concern is the density and the height of the building. And when we say in this district we got to allow it, well, they're not in the district yet, right? It's zoned A1 right now. I agree that if they went to R4 and they came to pull a building permit, then that would be an issue with height restrictions at that point. But they're not in the district yet. And so I do think that we could consider a 3-story condominium if any commission member thought that was not in conformity with the neighborhood or would have a detrimental impact on the neighborhood. I think that would be a basis for denial. I think that could be a basis for denial, and I'm not suggesting at all. Please don't think that that that's my opinion. I'm just saying that I do believe that height not being consistent with the neighborhood could be a viable basis for denial. Legal basis for denial.
I have a follow-up question. Maybe, Michael, you could help me with this one. So typically, we try to conform with similar ordinances and land use plans for adjoining municipalities, and this adjoins Hoover. So did we look at Hoover and see if this isn't in the spirit of their zoning and land use?
It is a transition area in the land use plan that we have.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. I appreciate the answers.
All right. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I want to be clear on something.
Yes, Mr. DeBro, go right ahead.
With the opposition and the statement about flooding, did I understand her correctly to say that changes were made on this site that we're talking about that caused the flooding with the retaining wall? Is that what I heard her say? It did not occur on that property. It was on another piece of property. Thank you.
And I think she's saying that the area is already sensitive. Yeah.
As it should be, so, or as it would be.
But in the same respect, it may be sensitive, but if, they're not contributing or making matters worse by, and comply with our stormwater ordinance, I don't know that there's anything more they could do. All right, any other discussion? All right, no further discussion. I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve Z21-0035 as presented.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
All right, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
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 All right, then the ayes have it. The recommendation of the county commission will be for approval. The final vote, though, will be made by the county commission, ma'am, at a subsequent hearing, and so you'll have an opportunity to talk with your neighbors and make sure they're aware of that, please, okay? All right, thank you all. All right, we'll now move to zoning case 21-36. Mr. Brown, if you would please present the case. Sir, do you? Yeah, he'll make more copies. Thank you.
Okay, this is case Z-21-36. It has a concurrent subdivision case, and so after my presentation, Michael will come up and immediately explain what the subdivision recommendation is. This is the application of Marilyn B. Rice, proposed map amendment from R1 single family to A1 agricultural for residential use. Properties located in the Dora area. This property contains 51.89 acres, is located at 8370 John Goggins Road. Staff is recommending approval, and there was no opposition from surrounding property owners. And Michael, if you want to handle the subdivision case.
Let's do this. If you hold off on the subdivision case right now, if you wouldn't mind. And let's go ahead and we'll hear the zoning case first. Is the applicant here in this case? Okay, thank you. You can come forward if you'd like and add to staff's presentation, or you can wait to see if there's opposition. It's your choice. If you would, state your name and address for the record for it.
Hey, my name is Michael Rice. I live at 9025 Bagley Road, Door, Alabama, 35062. My mom is the applicant of this case. Just to give everybody some history, it may help. She developed Sector 1 of this subdivision in the mid-2000s. It's supposed to be a 60-some-odd lot total development. She did Phase 1 in 2004, 2005, but went ahead and rezoned this back 40 or 52 acres with it when she got that. She's gotten older. She doesn't want to do any more infrastructure, and she doesn't want to build any roads and do all that. So what she wants to do is build 2 permanent cul-de-sacs and then sell that back piece as a farm to somebody. So that's kind of the request of how it was zoned residential, and now we're coming back and requesting it be zoned agricultural to sell it as a farm.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rice. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? All right, seeing none, are there any questions for the applicant? All right.
Yes.
Sir, if you could please come forward. I think there's some questions from some of the commissioners.
Mr. Rice, thanks. I appreciate you coming back up. So, a couple of things. We had some opposition letters received from residences or owners of the residences that abut this property. I guess they're the people that bought into this development when it was first planned. So, and they've had concerns about construction traffic through their subdivision to the property, for any plans that you have from your owners, your mom's ownership or future owners, and then also complaints about livestock and all the things that come with that in somebody's backyard. So, I'm curious about the use first, what you're planning to use it for once you get the rezoning, and if you close up the cul-de-sacs, aren't you landlocking your property to access it, or how are you going to get to the property afterwards?
Probably should have cleared that up. The subdivision case that's running concurrently with this rezoning takes that 40 acres that's outlined in black right there and the 12-some-odd acre piece that connects to the cul-de-sacs, and it's one big record plat. So that whole 52-acre parcel would have access to the cul-de-sacs.
Okay, so in other words, access to this 52 acres will be through the 2 cul-de-sacs?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. Because it looks like you're going to make them terminal ends with the circles, but you're going to be able to tie into it from the 52 acres?
Right. So they are terminating, correct, but the boundary lines of that back 52 acres would terminate at the cul-de-sac right away.
So that's how you'd be accessing it, okay? So it's not landlocked. Okay. So now tell me about what you're going to use the land for.
Now, my mom is 66. She doesn't want to develop it. She's probably just going to try to sell it. We have a potential buyer, but it's contingent upon rezoning to agricultural and being able to put a farm on it. I think the plan is, this is not set in stone, and I don't want to speak for him, but you've got a floodplain issue in the very back, and verbally, the idea is that back part would probably be the pasture for farm, whatever. The front part, which is going to meet health department requirements for on-site sewage disposal, and then have access to the road. You wouldn't have to run utilities as far. All that stuff would probably be a house spot. So that's kind of the plan.
Okay. Well, something that we've been talking about is, especially the residences that border the eastern part of the property there in the map, is having some sort of a buffer between them, that if you were to have livestock on that side of the property, that it would provide them some buffering and some separation, both from not so much the view, but the smell, so to speak.
I got it.
So do you have any opposition to doing something like that? Say maybe 100 feet with a natural buffer there, and then some sort of fencing to prevent the livestock from grazing and eating up the buffer. I think the standard buffer is 35 feet, so we'd be expanding that by 65 feet.
Yeah, I mean, there is, I'd have to talk to the buyer. We don't have any plans of doing that. There's no house there now. But there is an existing fence, I don't know if you can see it right there, that kind of separates that back part. I can ask the buyer, but his father's here, but I don't think the plan would be to ever get them any closer than that fence that's there now. And I don't really know what that distance is, but.
Now, he has another farm with cattle on it. This piece of property, he grew up in this neighborhood.
So, pardon me for interrupting, but let's let him finish, then we'll let you come up and talk about it, if that's okay.
But as far as a buffer, so what would that prohibit in the buffer? Would it be a physical planting of anything, or just putting it on there that you can't have livestock in this zone, and you've got to have a fence separating this buffer to the backside of that residential?
Probably the latter, so, which would be basically just a fenced-off zone of 100 feet from the property line.
I'd have to talk to the buyer. I don't want to.
Well, I mean,
I don't think that would kill the deal. Just moving a fence, and I could probably get that done. But there's A1 zoning on every other part of this.
I understand, but when we rezoned this, it was with the plan that we'd have residential all around. A lot of people in the community that built there had plans of not having a cow, sitting on the other side of the fence from their pool. So I realize it's making it what it is in the other areas, but think of the people that have residential homes that are worth $400,000, $500,000, all of a sudden have a cow pasture in their backyard. So we're just trying to find the right balance here.
I've talked to some of those same people, and their concerns were that we develop it too. They said, we hope you never develop that.
Well,
and so it's
true, but I mean, that was the plan when they bought into it, was it was going to be developed with comparable housing, so.
Understand.
But, Andrew, what's the fencing set off for the property line right now? Do you know?
Based on just the right of way, it's probably at least more than 50 feet.
Yeah. My guess is 50 to 100, somewhere in that range.
All right. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for Mr. Rice. If he wants his buyer's rep to come up, elaborate, that'd be okay? Or
Yeah, let's, while we've got Mr. Rice up here, Mr. Miller, did you have any more questions for Mr. Rice? Or did you have any?
Is there going to be cattle out there? Is that what the plan is?
We'll address that to the buyer then, I guess, it looks like.
Yeah, we don't plan on doing that, but I don't want to speak.
well, you have had cattle out there in the past, haven't you?
There was an attempt at one time, and then I think the zoning regulation was enforced, and we removed it. It was less than a week or a month.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the commission for Mr. Rice at this time?
Would you, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Dr. Davis.
Would you repeat what you just said, that you did have cattle there at one time, and you had to remove them?
Right. I didn't know at the time, and my mom leased it to someone to cut hay, and they thought, they could put cows on it, whatever. And so he put cows on this back 40, which is behind the fence right there, and realized, and we all did, that that's zoned A or R1 like the subdivision in front of it.
Okay, thank you.
You leased it to somebody to cut hay and they put cattle on it to eat the hay off of it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, he said, I'm leasing it. He didn't really say, hey, this is exactly what I'm going to do.
I got you. Okay. All right.
For farm use, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Are there any other questions from the commission for Mr. Rice at this time? All right. So, sir, if you wouldn't mind coming forward, I think there's some questions about what your son's plans are for the property and
Absolutely. Darren Gilbert, 5255 Hammock Road, Door, Alabama, 35062. I just live just a couple miles from this property. My son he's got a young family, just started. He's got a 1-year-old. They're actually in Disney World right now, so he could not be here. But he has no current plans of putting cattle on this property. He wants to build his forever home here. He wants a big spot of property. He grew up on a bigger spot of property, and that's what he wants. He does have cows at another farm that we have that's down the road in Walker County. I can't tell you that 20 years from now he's not going to put a cow over there, but he has no plans of putting cattle on this property. He may try to cut. It's a big grass area that has to be kept up, and he may want to try to cut hay off of it at some point to feed the cattle that he has. But he wants it for his forever home. He's going to build a home. His plan is to build something comparable to what's in that neighborhood. He don't want to be next door to somebody else. He wants to have a big piece of property with that same house, that same nice house. So that's his current plan. I don't know why. I mean, there's a lot of talk about cattle, but I guess because he has cows. But
Okay.
like I said, that's not his current plan, is to make a cattle farm there. He has a cattle farm, or we have a cattle farm.
I'll tell you where I bet the conversation about cows came up is that right now y'all can go build a house out there. It's zoned residential. You can do that. So y'all are asking though to go to agricultural. And so when you do that, it makes us think, well, it's farming operations is what they're asking for, because he can build a house there now. So this is, and that's the thing, if he just wants to build a house there, then we don't need to rezone it.
Well, he don't want to have to build the curbs and the driveways and the roads out. He's not going to build right at the end of that cul-de-sac. He's going to build out in that field.
But I think regardless of whether it's agricultural or residential, he'd have to build the same driveway and everything. The zoning classification doesn't dictate, how close he's got to build the house to a public street for fire protection and all that sort of thing.
It does restrict him from being able to cut hay on that property, though. At least that's what I was told, or he was told. Has to be agricultural.
Both good points. I mean, you can
Yeah.
cut grass or hay. I'm not sure that really.
Yeah, but if you're baling hay, maybe that's seen as a farming operation. That makes sense to me. Okay.
Yep. I do have. So I wanted to. Sorry, did I cut you off?
Go ahead, Trudy. Mr. Ray. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Lauer.
Okay. Mr. Gilbert, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to find a happy medium here. So based on what you described, he's probably looking at farming operations to the west of the property, the most western part, toward
the wetland, yes, sir.
Yes. So
what he showed me. What he showed me was basically coming off this road and building a house somewhere back in here. Mm-hmm. Before you get to this, I think this is flood zone property, some of this. And then all of this is currently pastured that he would want to cut that hay off of.
Okay. So what we could propose is just have a limitation or a covenant on the rezoning that there'd be no livestock kept in 100 feet of the eastern border.
So you're saying within 100 feet of this way? I think this fence, like he's saying, is probably about 50 feet. So you're saying he'd have to extend that 50 feet if 10
he's
years from now he decided to put something on there. When you say livestock and cattle, he couldn't have a horse on it. He couldn't have. I'm not saying have 50 cows out there. I'm saying, he doesn't have a horse currently. I'm not saying he's going to have horses either, but it's just as long as you're saying build a fence.
Yeah, we're probably
build a fence and keep it 100 feet from the end of that road and 100 feet from the end of this road. I don't know that he'd have a problem with that. Like I said, he doesn't plan on doing it anyway. And he could still cut the hay, correct?
It really wouldn't require any modifications unless he decides to put livestock, and he basically has to have an exclusion zone of 100 feet.
I see that. I don't think he'd have a problem with that. I can try to contact him here in a minute. But, if that's the covenant y'all put on it, that's what he'll deal with.
Okay.
But I want you to know this too, just some discussion point. It's a sensitive thing for us to go to agricultural when we're next to, higher end residential. And I personally don't like the thought of somebody putting an electric fence up next to a residential area. And there being, I hear what you're saying. I agree with you. But if, your son buys a house and he ends up selling it, the next buyer who wasn't here doesn't know that, and they're going to come down here and ask for, they're going to they can do whatever they want to with us, and there's nothing that we can do to prohibit it. And so I don't want you to think that we're asking, that we're being asking pointed questions, trying to beat you up about it. But that's the thing. We're just wanting to make sure. If we just went to straight A1, I mean, they could put, pigsties right there next to the other houses. And I don't think that's his intent, but we got to do what we can to make sure that doesn't happen.
He's not going to live by them.
No, that's right.
But if you don't buy it, somebody else does.
And for that matter, he
could
could
live on a farm. He'd build a house on the farm.
Yeah. Well, and for that matter, I mean, A1 allows mobile homes, and so you could put a mobile home and a pigsty right up there by the cul-de-sac, and that's what we're trying to.
Just build that barrier. I understand.
That's the basis for all the questions and stuff.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Try to protect the neighborhood.
Absolutely, I understand.
I got a follow-up question, Michael. What's Daniel say about it?
Well, he's not here.
I'm asking you.
I don't know. Daniel's my brother. For those of y'all who don't know, he lives in there. He's got one of the nicer homes that you all are referencing. I guess he sees both sides of it. My mom is getting to where she just can't develop it, and we can't do that. And then I think if there wasn't going to be a nice home built back there, or the thought of that plan, then yeah, he might disagree with it. But.
Any other questions?
You guys are aware you need to finish the road.
Ma'am.
You guys are aware you need to finish the road.
I've got a plan for the cul-de-sacs, and if the plat gets approved, then we'll submit that to your office.
Is it cul-de-sacs only, or is it seal coat too, though?
It's do a seal coat.
Yeah, so part of this first phase has not been seal coated. I don't know if this is a subdivision or rezoning question, but part of the sale of this piece is there's enough money then to hopefully pave Sector 1 cul-de-sacs and turn it over to final plat or acceptance to Jefferson County Roads and Transportation.
But
that needs to happen.
Is that how it works, though? If they sell property and raise enough money to put the seal coat down, then they're liable to do it? Or
no,
is it?
He's already liable to do it.
Yeah, there's a bond up, but it was done in 2005 or 6, and there's not enough money to pave it.
Yeah. All right. Mr. Gilbert wants him a new seal coat to his son's property, and so does the county. All right. Is there any further discussion? All right. Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of zoning case Z210036 with a covenant that if livestock is kept on the property, that there's a 100-foot buffer on the eastern property to exclude said livestock from that area.
Second.
A point of discussion, do we want to limit mobile homes at all?
What would be an appropriate limit?
It would be appropriate, just given the fact that it's accessed through and adjacent to that nice residential area.
Yeah.
Only thing is, I would caveat that with, we would probably need to say except for emergency relief purposes.
Okay.
Because it would be allowed by right within the subdivision if someone's house were burned or something.
Okay.
Or maybe for construction of their. Right. All right. So would we put a time frame on it? 6 months? 12?
Well, no. That's something that's built into the regulations. You don't need to do
Okay.
that.
All right.
Caveat that any mobile home, no mobile homes with the exception of temporary emergency relief.
Okay. All right. So I amend my motion to include a covenant that there will be no mobile homes except for temporary emergent purposes.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. All right. All right, we got to hear the subdivision case now. Mr. Martin, S21-81.
So this is the concurrent subdivision case to the rezoning we just heard. It is a proposal to add the 3 lots, lots 27, 28, and 26 here, and the conservation lot, not for development, which encapsulates all the floodplain on this property, and to dedicate right-of-way for the permanent cul-de-sacs there. The proposed subdivision does comply with the zoning regulations, and it will be necessary for construction plans to be approved and implemented before the final plat is approved. And this is for the roads construction. Other than that, the staff recommendation for this subdivision is approval. I will also add, as it was mentioned in the rezoning case, that there was one email we did get that was in opposition to this case.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Martin. We'll now open the public hearing and call for anyone in opposition to please come forward. Seeing none, does the applicant wishes to, you can come forward and add anything you want to. You've had enough of the podium today. No, you've been a good sport, Mr. Rice. We appreciate it. All right. We'll close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve S21-0081 as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. All right, Ms. Davis, I'm so sorry that I didn't let you jump back in here. We've got one more case left, and I said we were going to move you to the end of the agenda, but it wouldn't be fair if we didn't go ahead and call your case. Let's jump back to Ms. Davis's case again. She has provided us with photos of the exterior elevations that these are some examples that she'd like for her building to look like.
I want to kind of start from the beginning too, just to just a little pointer. It doesn't matter. So I want you to kind of see. So this one here, just so y'all can get a full view. So this here would be the strip center that I'm currently at. It's zoned commercial. So here is the property where I have removed the demolished or the old abandoned home. I mean, it was grown up. It was definitely an eyesore. So, and it's actually zoned to agriculture. And then here is Cynthia Butler's attorney's office. According to all the documents, it's not commercial. I'm not sure if she runs a business out of it.
That'll be next month.
Okay. Well, anyway, she's super nice. She's, excited for what I'm hoping to do. The community across the street actually is really excited that I've removed this old house. I'm trying to bring something positive to the community. And like I said, there's, other commercial properties throughout this, on McElroy School Road. That's what this is. So I just wanted to talk about that first, and then we can go over to that other email. Okay, let's see. So that's still another picture. And then there's more of the strip center. That's the front of my store now, so it will look very nice. And then the bottom, okay, so this, I don't know, and that's the inside of my store. And then, so this picture, I wish I could bring it up. Can we, zoom in on it?
Okay, we have a printout of it.
Okay, so you can kind of see how where it says Brian's Carpet is in the back. That is how I hope to do the warehouse in the back. That way, like I said before, I was, I'm already leasing the 2,400 square foot now, and I had to lease an additional square footage to hold my inventory to do online. It was so nice being able to walk 2 units down, and that's where, my additional inventory was, my back stock and whatnot. But they leased it out to someone who was going to pay market price rent just because I was kind of helping them out. And so I just would love to have the warehouse behind it, seeing that I could just access it from the back, and it would be beneficial to my store. I mostly am doing this to obviously save money. I probably pay about I don't know, with all of it was about $4,000 a month just in rent alone. So I would love to own it myself. The leasing company they've actually been really nice. They told me congratulations on getting the property So I think everyone would, they're excited about it, and that's basically why I want to do this and where I'm at.
What's the side view of the existing?
That is
no,
the warehouse.
The existing strip mall next door to you?
Oh,
Do
no,
they
sir.
have?
It looks
does-
identical to this.
It has brick halfway up it.
I believe so, yes, sir. Or it,
You know
it
that
actually
brick's
looks
going to be
like
more.
to me, it looks more like that stucco, kind of like it's.
Or cinder block or something.
Yeah, maybe it's just solid. Let's see, click like that right there. It looks like yes, sir. It's the cinder blocks on the side. Is where I'm currently at.
Split block. Yeah.
He provided a picture, I think, of the white building at Edgar
But,
and Hoover. I love how it looks.
That's the front of the building, though. What's the side look like?
Of my store.
It's going to be much more costly for you to put brick around the side
So
of the building.
the person who actually built this, Mr. Leopard, he suggested doing brick veneer.
On the side?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That is something that I will get into. I don't want it to look cheap or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could have, I've talked with him, and I know it's expensive to get like an architect and all that, so I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to be zoned commercial before I, really jumped into all that. I've saved for 5 years to hopefully be able to do something like this.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to discuss a proposed covenant to go with this.
Okay.
To relate to this. So typically, we would consider approval of this and then have you bring back your plans, and that way we could review it. So, but in lieu of that, since you said you were in a more expedited need for this, that we could put a covenant that said that the architecture should be similar in nature to the strip mall on the adjacent property, and in character with the other office or commercial buildings in the area. So something like that.
It doesn't mean I can't make it nicer.
Oh, no, you can go as high up as you want. Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Do what now?
but not like a mini warehouse painted bright yellow kind of thing.
No. Yes, sir. Yeah. I think that's
Yeah. That just limits how low you can go, not how high you can go.
okay. Okay.
Michael can't wait or the zoning administrator can't wait to enforce that.
You built it too nice. You're gonna have to.
I don't know if it's well. All right. Okay.
Does that sound okay for everybody?
Yeah, that sounds good to me because I was concerned about doing brick around the side. Is nice, but if it's set back like the other strip mall next to it is, there's not many people except for your delivery people that are going to see the side of that building. And to me, that's just blowing $10,000-$20,000. Maybe your internet business is doing great. Maybe you can just afford to do that.
Well, no, I don't. I want to save money the best way that I can.
Yeah.
I just want it to look nice.
Yeah. We trust you will. All right. Was there any further discussion? All right. Seeing none, may I have a motion?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, make sure I get the place. All right, so I make a motion to recommend approval of zoning case Z21-033 with a covenant on the architectural design such that it's in character with the other commercial properties in the area, similar to what was presented in the case application.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, the ayes have it. Good job. You'll go to the county commission for final approval, okay? All right. All right, our last case is Z 2011. Oh, this is a site plan approval. That concludes our zoning cases. Our last case is a site plan approval, Z 2011-13. Mr. Morrison, is this yours? Or?
No.
Connie. All right, Ms. Hughes.
All right, this property was rezoned back in 2011 from A1 to C1 for general commercial use. There was a restricted covenant that prior to them doing any activity on the property, they would have to come back before the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval of the use and the site plan. and that's where we are today. This is what they presented. They're wanting to propose a car wash, and you can look and see it's near the corner of Eastern Valley Road and McCullough Road. And if you look here at the car wash, let's see, if I bearings right. Okay, this is the entrance of the car wash here on McCullough Road. You go around, this is the pay station. Go back around and down. Then you have an option to either exit the car wash, this is where the egress is, or you can go into the vacuuming station there. Also, if you notice around the residential part, you have residential property, let's see. To the north and to the west of it, they have a 15-foot buffer around there. In addition to the 35-foot setback, also, if you notice here, this is the pay station. It's not meeting the setbacks, which is within 35 feet.
All right. Ms. Hughes, what's the buffer comprised of?
What's what now?
The buffer that you mentioned, is it a fence buffer, planted buffer, or just undisturbed?
That I'm not sure of. You can take that out with the applicant there.
All right, I'll do that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Good job. All right. Are there any, looks like we've got the applicant here. Are there any questions from the commission? I guess Mr. Lowry's certainly got some questions about the buffer. If one of y'all, if somebody could come up and speak on behalf of the applicant, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kevin Pence, 4223 Lindsay Circle, Bessemer, Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Pence. Go ahead, Mr. Lowry.
Okay, and Mr. Pence. So from the drawing up here, I'm not sure what's considered north. About the 11 o'clock direction.
Yes, sir.
That buffer there, what's it comprised of? Is it fenced or is it natural planted?
It's currently just natural growth. This is an old residence that's been grown up for years and years. So currently this is just a natural growth area. We are still working through the final civil drawings on that, so that hasn't been fully determined. It would be landscaping the trees or something of that nature.
Okay. All right. So,
unless there's a requirement placed otherwise, that was our intention.
I didn't pull the original zoning case with this. Do you know what covenants were put on it?
I don't know, sir. That was not part of our agreement to purchase the property.
So tell me about this. How about operation? What are going to be your hours and days of the week?
Hours would be approximately 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning to about 7 to 8 o'clock in the evenings is typical car wash hours.
Okay.
We're typically open 7 days a week with modified hours on Sundays.
Okay.
So typically that's a 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock opening to a 6 or an 8 o'clock, somewhere in that ballpark, closing on Sundays.
What brand will this is this for?
This is an independently owned car wash, and so there will be an individual branding tied to it.
What kind of color schemes and stuff do they have?
Neutral colors, typically red is included in their branding, but that's something that can be adjusted. But for the site that they built a few years ago in another municipality had red and white included in the color scheme, so that's still something to be determined.
Is this a full-service car wash?
No, sir. This is an express model only. And I'm sorry, I'm assuming express model only. You would understand what I'm saying by that.
Well,
we don't have attendants that would actually detail the vehicle out so that the customers would come through the pay stations, go through the wash for an exterior clean, and then they have opportunity to detail their own vehicle, but the employees of the wash would not be doing the detailing.
Yeah, they just keep everything running.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And then the interior cleaning will be the responsibility of the customer.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Kind of comparable to two franchises in the area, Raindrop and Gugu, I think.
Y'all do monthly subscriptions?
Yes, sir. They would. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm getting far afield of the site plan review. Mr. Tabro, go ahead.
You all have been working with the health department trying to get an on-site sewage system.
Yes, sir.
In place. So
That's
looking
correct.
at the design, has your designers for your on-site sewage system seen this?
Yes, sir. They have. They have made recommendation on the approximate square footage that we're going to need for the on-site septic system. And we have allowed for that on the southern portion. You'll see there's indicated an on-site sewer area behind the building there. That's the approximate location that they have identified as the best place for the on-site. I believe they are very close. I think Wynn Eccles is working on that project, and the last I heard, they were very close. In fact, I thought they had submitted it until very recently when I reached out to Wynn.
Now, look at your drawing, and I'm not saying this is going to work.
Sure.
But please be aware that you need to have a primary and a secondary.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They have given us direction on both a primary and a secondary, and we've allowed for both of those.
Any other questions from the committee? Or Mr. Rowe, do you have anything else? That's it? Okay. Are there any other questions from the commission? All right. Seeing.
I do have one more question.
Sure,
I'm
go.
sorry. And I'm sorry I have to put it to you like this now, but better find out now than later.
Sure.
As far as the restrooms are concerned, will it just be for staff only, or will it be for open to the public?
There will be a publicly accessible restroom, yes. And that has been taken into consideration in the design from the on-site sewer engineers. Does that help?
It answers my question.
Okay.
I know it's no secret to you, it's been kind of a challenge to try to figure out what will work, because
Yes, sir.
soils are kind of
Yes, sir.
difficult to work with.
Yes, sir.
But the last I heard, to try to make it work, there would just be a restroom for the people who work there, for the employees.
And if it's okay with you, that may be something I circle up with you afterwards on and try and clarify as we nail down the design and the approval of that design, if that's okay with you. Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, we'll call for a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, make sure I get the protocol right on this, but we're making a motion to approve this site plan.
That's,
okay.
I think you would be, yes, sir.
So I'll make a motion to.
Well, hold on.
I would like to point out that, again, the pay station as depicted on the site plan does not conform to the zoning regulations. So we would need to take that into account as part of the motion, that allowing for some sort of redesign to either meet setbacks or obtaining the variance to the board of adjustment, which I don't know if there's a hardship to grant one, but leaving the door.
So again, to summarize, so the site plan does not meet zoning regulations as shown.
The one pay station that's on that section.
Do I have a laser?
And that's a structure under our ordinance.
That's correct.
So this is something that we were not aware of. I think Michael and I were corresponding on this late last week. We have not had a chance. We've adjusted the site plan, but we don't know if it's going to comply with what the owners are okay with yet. So we're still working through that. We'd be open to approaching a variance if we need to, if we can get approval on, the use and that type of thing. We'd be glad to go through a variance. It's not an
Yeah, I mean,
issue.
it sounds like that there's a decision that's been made that does not comply, but what we're trying to avoid doing is approving site plan, then y'all trying to go get your variance, get denied, and then have to come back here for another site plan. So we're trying to save you the trouble of doing that. So yeah, I think the best thing to do would be make a recommendation of approve this, subject to getting a variance, and if not, then the site plan's approved if there's a substantial compliance with this.
And
if there's a small tweak.
To make sure that I'm understanding what Michael has communicated to us during this process, we'd want to make sure that we got the use approved and then the site plan approved.
Yeah, we're only
on a variance.
Yeah, Mr. Spencer, we're only here for a site plan approval, so I think the use itself is approved.
No, this is a use and a site plan.
So, back in 2011, things got crazy, and they wanted to rezone the property to C1, just kind of speculatively, which the planning commission as well as the county commission at the time sort of frowned on sort of speculative zoning.
Right.
And so that was actually a covenant that was put on the zoning case that you guys approved, one, the use, once they established the use, and then two, the site plan. Don't look at me, I'm not.
So they kicked the use. We get to zone property, pretty much. We get to actually make the final say on a rezoning, according.
That's what the county commission decided.
All right.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
I'm just
I
standing.
don't know if I can handle such a responsibility.
So we're we're considering approving the use of a car wash and the site plan and so the use is not an issue that I've heard in the discussion. The site plan at issue is the structure to the, I don't know, northeast property line. And it either needs a variance or the site plan needs to be adjusted so that you meet the setbacks.
All right. Approve the use and we approve completion of the project in substantial compliance with this site plan. And it will be in substantial compliance if they have to move those, whatever they are, the coin stations for whatever reason, because they don't get a variance.
Understand. So
That's
I'm going
right.
to ask you, so if you have to move them, tell me conceptually what you would do.
Sure.
To get it in compliance if you don't get a variance.
Again, we're still working through that, but the preliminary discussions that we've had would be to tighten up this turn radius right here and to try and get it. The point of contention, to my understanding, is this, what we call a pay station, is mounted to the concrete. There's not really a structure there, it's just mounted to the concrete. That if I can get it inside the setback line, then we are now in compliance, is the way that I've understood the correspondence. Is that fair? If I get this pay station right here inside the setback line, then I'm good, right? Okay.
So how many feet are we talking?
We're talking 6 or 7 feet, somewhere in that.
Okay.
6 or 7
So basically,
feet.
you're just going to figure out a way to shift it.
I do. The challenge for me comes into, I've got to get this person right here back into this building lined up right. And so I've got to make sure that I can do that. We haven't run those models yet.
Understood. Okay.
And the area on just immediately to the south of that lower pay station, is that grassed?
It is currently grassed, yes.
All right, so what you would have to do is eat into that grass landscaping area just to build more on the other side and create a windy road.
Yes, sir.
And so for light, space, and everything else.
And I got to make it so that the customers like it. So, but the preliminary thoughts are to take this dumpster and to see what we can do about tweaking the location of it and to tighten up a turn radius and get the pay station to pull inside. We're still working through that.
I understand. You don't want cars taking out the pay station.
I would really rather that not happen.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to understand the feasibility of what, if you have to vary, is it going to be substantial or not? Sounds like it's not.
As of we stand here right now, it's not. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pence. We'll now call for a motion.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the use on zoning case Z 2011-013 and the site plan with substantial compliance to it, or a variance case to resolve the setback issue.
Okay. Second. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
All right. Is that it? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
One additional item on there for your other business, very quickly. Next month's meeting is scheduled for November 11th, which is Veterans Day. The courthouse will be closed. Would you guys like to meet on the 10th, the Wednesday before? Last time this happened, 10 years ago. That's what the commission decided to do. I just wanted to use it. We're going to have a forum for a meeting that day. Wednesday the 10th.
I'll have to check my calendar, but I like the proposal, so to move it to the 10th. I think maybe send out a poll to the members, because several members aren't here, and make sure we have a quorum. I'd ask early.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Good way to look forward for that, too.
All right, we'll do that then, and
Y'all be good. You good too, man.
no, I ain't got anything. I didn't bring anything else today.